Hi, welcome to Newbies to Movies. I'm Tyler,
And I'm Justin.
and this is a podcast where we like to talk about new movies that we've watched. And this week we have a guest, Madison.
Hello.
Just introduce yourself real quick and give us a rundown of what kind of movies you like to watch and everything.
I'm Madison. It's nice to be here. I kind of watch a little of everything. I would say I mostly watch like animation movies, but I also enjoy like dramas, comedies, horror movies. But animation is probably my number one.
Justin.
Okay, yeah. Madison actually does all the background work for the Newbies to Movies podcast. So any, social media graphics, any social media posts, thumbnails for the podcast, everything like that. So we couldn't do this without you and just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you a lot. All the cool graphics that you guys see, that's all hers. Yeah, shout out.
I try. Thank you.
So we'll start off with just saying what we've watched for the past week, if anything, other than the two movies that we did this week, or any current shows that you're watching. Justin, you want to start out?
Yeah, I haven't really started anything new, but me and Madison are planning on watching Gen V and Peacemaker coming up next. So we're planning on hopping on those. I've heard good things about both.
Anything you've been watching, Madison? Separate?
Yeah, I've been watching quite a bit. I've been watching the series Scream Queens. I don't know if you've ever seen it with Emma Roberts.
I think I watched it right when it first came out, but I can't really remember a lot.
And then I actually watched like the Scooby-Doo movies today. And then I've just been watching like older classic like slasher films. Just kind of that's really it.
Yeah, it's spooky season, so this is the time of the year where I just like set out all my time to try to watch as many horror movies as possible. Watched The Strangers on the plane ride, which that was an interesting watch itself. Started The Landman. Started the new show, Welcome to Derry. It's on HBO. Only one episode so far, but so far it looks pretty cool. It's interesting because they're going through different parts of the book than what they did in the movies. So I think it's a little interesting. And then each season it goes back 20 something years. It's kind of interesting concept in itself. A finished task finally. And then also watched Psycho on the flight back, or finished it on the flight back. Again, interesting movie to watch on a plane itself.
So with the It show, real quick, I know we talked about it before on the podcast, how the movies kind of leave out like the space sci-fi element out of it and lean more on the horror. Do you think they'll get into that with the show?
I think they will, but not till like season 3, because season 3 goes into like when he first lands.
Okay. Gotcha.
So a lot of it it's like based on the book, but then it expounds a lot more stuff that the writers make up themselves, because Stephen King himself like did like one chapter on each of the years that they're doing. And then they're just going more in detail. And there are some like really creepy scenes, and just like so far, like there was, for example, I'll just give it, it's not spoiling anything, but like one of the daughters, that's like a scary aspect of it. She like, it's like raw chicken livers, and she like puts her hand in it and like starts like crushing it with her hands, and then just like starts spreading it on this little kid. And it's just like a little nasty. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, so this isn't going to hold back. Just being like a nasty show. It is interesting that they're starting it a week before Halloween, compared to like, you think they would try to end it, but who knows?
Is Pennywise in it?
I haven't finished episode 1 entirely, but apparently he does show up like at the end a little bit. Apparently.
Is it a different actor this time?
I actually do not know that.
Oh,
I would have to look into that a little bit. I don't think it is, though. I think Bill Skarsgård is in it. So this week we are doing slasher films. So 2 weeks ago we did monster movies that kind of go after like the horror aspect of things. And this week we wanted to get back into the horror aspect, but then just go after classic genre of slasher films. So the movies that we did was Psycho, which has been widely renowned as like starting off slasher films, being like the original one that a lot of people base off of how slasher films go in the first place off of. And then we did a newer one, even though it came out 2011, You're Next. We decided to do these two ones to have a more new take on slasher films, but then also having the OG one, because we have not seen the OG one itself. I personally really like slasher films. I think they're really campy in itself, with that being said, if you're going to be like a really hard critic on these kind of movies, they definitely have a lot of plot holes.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of like niche things. And that's where the campiness comes into stuff and where people like enjoy certain parts of it even more. Shout out to my Funko Pops because I have the Scream one. I have Freddy Krueger. And then I have Jason. And then I also got my buddy Mike Myers right behind me.
So you're an
So,
out of the
what-
box guy. Some people would call that a pop sin.
Nope. Funko Pop. So what do you guys think of slasher movies like overall?
Yeah, go ahead, Madison.
I personally love them. Like, I enjoy watching them. I think they're fun. I've seen most of them. I've watched a lot of the newer ones. Like I said, I'm still going through like a lot of the classics, like Black Christmas and Alice, Sweet Alice, The Burning, things like that. I'm still like on my list to watch this week.
Straight up, not for me, dude. Like horror movies in general, I don't like scary things. I'm a baby like that. But also I feel like the deeper meaning behind it is that like I really want to sit down and think a lot while I'm like watching movies. And I'm not going to say all the time, but a lot of time, like you were explaining, there is a lot of plot holes and a lot of lack of character development. And oftentimes they have to sacrifice those things to really get incredible horror scenes. And I just don't like that. Again, it's just a taste thing. I just prefer movies like kind of like with Psycho, where you have to really think, sit down and understand characters and their motives.
Yeah. No, horror is definitely not meant for everyone, I would say. And when we get into it, it could just be like, there's just a campiness factor to it that like you either enjoy or you don't. Because again, they're not going to go into expounding detail about explaining each of the person's backstory because they don't want you feeling sometimes too bad for the people because they're just going to kill them off anyways. Like when you walk into a horror movie, especially a slasher, you just fully got to expect almost everyone in that thing's about to.
Well, I mean, that's like kind of the point of a slasher too. Like that's what makes a slasher, is you always have like the final girl or someone who makes it at the end and like they take on the quote unquote villain at the end.
Yeah,
but
there
give
always
that
is
person, give that final person good character development and make me want them to win. Because sometimes straight up, I'm like, okay, I don't care who wins this.
It's interesting for sure. We'll get into it with the first movie that we do, but the final girl concept, I think it goes hand in hand with slasher films. I think a lot of the newer slasher films kind of go away from the final girl concept. You got like final guys, sometimes entities or groups that are finals. But I definitely like, you look back to Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Scream franchises. They just have a bunch of final people, like final girl specifically. So I think that's just a very hand-to-hand concept itself, but cool. All right. So the first one that we're going to get into is You're Next. It's a 2011 film that directed by Adam Wingard. It's definitely a campy film, I would say, more than a domestically like indulging film like what Psycho is. It's definitely more of a culty, I would say, because it has a huge cult following. It's also a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes, which for a slasher film is actually really good. Most slasher films do not get the best reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, mainly because, the plot thing and everything. Most of those tomato critics really go after that. So
I'm a tomato critic.
2011, it came out in 2011 at a film festival, but it wasn't theatrically released until 2013. So it took 2 years for it to end up coming out, which I thought is also really interesting. They did it with those 2 years. Had a budget of $1 million, but made $27 million at the box office itself, which I thought was also really interesting. And kind of we can get into like some of the categories of why it probably looks like it does. But I'll start with plot. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Just like with any horror movie, it starts off with like just setting up the scene, right? And what it is like they're all going to their parents' house or a destination spot. I don't even think it's anything they're related to. Maybe I think it's a parents' like vacation house.
Yeah,
and for their 35 years, 35 years of marriage and all that. But you could just tell right away once the family meets, they all don't like each other, and because they're a rich family, they all don't like each other. All the significant others seem like they got nothing back their story except for the main girl, which is Erin. played by Sharni Benson herself. What do you guys think of the plot overall, or at least the setup?
Go ahead, Matt.
So I gave it a 7.5. Kind of like the same thing. I think it did like set it up in the beginning, like they were all going away, and then you kind of throughout you got like the kind of like the greediness and the betrayal of like the family members and like what they wanted and things like that. I thought it was a good story.
See, I thought the setup was kind of promising, and it was leading me to like think, maybe I was changing my ways about these horror slasher movies, and I just found like no care in the world about any of the characters. I mean, there was like 4 characters that showed up like right before the dinner they had. Like the next scene was the dinner they had, and then arrows start flying through the window. And I'm like, so half the people at this table, I don't even remember their name, and one of them got shot in the back. One of them died. Like the sister died in like 2 minutes. You got to give me something to grab onto to be like, okay, well, what's going on? Why do I care that these people are dying? Because I just didn't. And I got to be frank about that.
Yeah. Well, you got the 2 couples. So you got like the guy that's kind of just not a dick at the dinner table. I'm just gonna say it. He was a dick. And then he's just like talking to his daughter's like boyfriend like that, who's like a documentary guy. And then once he get like, and then he gets killed first, which I thought was actually perfect. I was like, all right, yeah, fuck. I don't know. He was like, yeah, I made a documentary like 3 years ago and I haven't really done anything since. And then the other guy's just making fun of him for it. And I'm like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, but let that scene play out. Let them really like show the tension in the family.
I thought they showed just enough of it to just get straight to the point, because they also set up the couple, the son and the daughter named Z, as like, I don't know, they seem a little off right away, right? When you look back at it, right when they're introduced, you're like, this girl does not look like any good. And then Aaron just seems like the most innocent person out of it all. Like they're really giving her most of the backstory, I would say, and then the parents itself. And then they kind of make you feel bad. I would say if you were going to feel any sympathy about any of the characters or really root for them, it is Aaron. Because Aaron is like kind of put in this fucked up situation. And then towards the end of the movie, so figured out that her boyfriend, who clearly like kind of grooms her a little bit, and then also she has to survive. But little did they know that she actually grew up in a camp to be able to do all that, and then fucking just takes them all. But then it ends in a crazy way of just getting shot by a cop anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what kind of blew me too, is like you did set up that character correctly. And then at the end, you're just going to shoot her. Like, I don't know. It seems kind of, what do you think, Madison?
Yeah.
Ending?
Yeah.
I guess it like was not great because I felt like through the whole movie you were watching her like go through everything and struggle and like fight for her life. And then in the end she's just like, well, gone. You're like, well, why did I just waste all my time like rooting for her if this was just gonna how it ended? I mean, I enjoyed watching her throughout the entire film, but I just didn't like how they ended it. And then it was like she gasped and then it was just like the title at the end.
Yeah. So there's like 2 different types of horror, like especially slasher films for me. It's like the one that ends with the final girl and they're a really nice like part of their life and all that. And then there's the one where it ends like this and actually there is no winner. For example, Final Destination, all the movies end like that. The final people end up dying. Spoiler alert. And then you get into, there's another one that I just can't think of on the top of my head. It's either or. Oh, It Follows. That also ends in not the best way because it's like a mystery about it. This one, the ending is full cultness. It's just like fitting right into that. It's just like, yeah, like this is a cult film in itself. But the reason why I gave it a 7 out of 10 is because I did hit it on the ending itself. I think it wasn't like a resounding great ending itself. And I think it would have been more interesting if they had her driving off, but then like you just gradually see a car following them as if like that wasn't the last of them.
Yeah.
I think that would have been more interesting. Yeah. For
and
example,
it was clearly
like
that cop's first day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what an idiot.
Characters, I gave it a 5 out of 10. I had a lot of same issues like that. You have a lot with the horror films. The people that they kill off right away, they just don't really have much background other than like giving them one character type each. And that's about it. That's all you're going to get from them. The only person that has any like more story or any more plot development to them is Aaron and the boyfriend.
Yeah, dude, the more I think about this is kind of just like Home Alone with Aaron being Kevin McAllister's older, more deadlier sister.
A little bit. And that, not really, but not really because
booby traps.
The booby traps, but then you got the siblings that end up hiring them all just to get like the money out of like the killing the parents and all of them. And then the boyfriend, honestly, the boyfriend is the real villain of this entire movie.
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
Dude, I mean, you just make a character like that too. Like he's more unlikable than any of them. At least the other one's got like the ego to like be there and do it themselves. Like he doesn't even have
exactly
the moral compass in his body to like, just be like, I'm going to hire a hit and then flee the scene. Come on.
Yeah. And then still bring a girl with you for what reason?
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah. Real villain. What do you think of the characters?
She was supposed to be the witness. I gave the characters a 7 out of 10. I mean, I like them. I think each of them like kind of played their role. Although I will say that now thinking back, like I actually had seen it before. And like watching it again, I guess you could kind of like catch on to the characters early on. So I think that's kind of what like threw me off is like you could kind of guess who was like gonna be involved. Like from the beginning, I like saw them walk up and I'm like, okay, something's up with these two. Like it was clearly like you weren't thrown off or anything. Like it was clearly them. And then like the boyfriend too, he was kind of shady. Like at first I was like, maybe not. And then like I was like, he's still acting really weird. And then he like disappeared for half of the movie. So I really like the main girl, Erin. I mean, I thought she was pretty awesome.
I think she's a really compelling final girl for me compared to a lot of others, just because she's like totally different than everyone. Not even close to the same background as any of them. And they didn't know anything about her. Not even enough to where you think that one couple would have asked the boyfriend, hey, like, what is this girl that you're bringing? And all this like that. Like, the boyfriend didn't even know that this girl could like straight up kill people.
Also, I felt like it was kind of her fault that the people upstairs died because she walked to the side room and they punched through the glass and tried to grab her. And then she like stabbed that guy in the arm into the windowsill and then went back out there and failed to tell them that there was another person. And I was like, what are we doing? We can't all talk to each other and like get on the same page before we come back and go our different directions again?
To be fair, in my situation, so everyone there has known each other for a long time and she's like the newest one. She owes them nothing. And / she's in survival mode and she's just like, oh, fuck all. Like, I don't owe them anything kind of thing. I don't know. I guess you could point that out though. But when you get into cinematography, for what it was, I mean, it's $1 million towards a film. Not the most resources, I would say. But I thought it shot pretty cool. I think some of the like tension scenes, building with the camera, and then like the Urinex on the walls, like being able to highlight that. But then also like it's really the scene of when the mom goes up in the room and is just like crying her eyes out. But then it's like a full out scene looking, and then he comes out from under the bed. I thought that was really cool, like shot scene itself.
Yeah, there were some really great shot scenes in this. I will give it that. I think back to the opening scene too with the neighbor's house. I thought that was really well shot and built pretty great suspense. It had me intrigued for a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a great opening shot, like a great opening scene itself. And then getting into acting, this is probably one of my biggest hits on it. Is I gave it like a 4.3 out of 10. Mainly because I don't know, just a lot of it is just really, again, you get into slasher films. There's a reason why not many famous actors do slasher films. It's because it's not really known for great acting itself. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to like go after any specific actors or actresses.
He literally looked at the killer after he slit his dad's throat right in front of him. And he said, really, man, right in front of me? I was like, are we what are we doing? That's the best line you had.
I think Madison could attest to this, but that's like the campiness into it, right? You don't take the acting too serious. It's like, it's just, yeah.
Kind of just is what it is.
Yeah. And then dialogue, again, kind of a bigger hit on it. I gave it a 4 out of 10. Just not the most realistic dialogue, but also like what is realistic when you're just going through a crisis of people trying to kill you and all that. But there's been examples of movies doing it really well and some movies just not doing it that well. And I think this is more, again, on the culty campiness side of dialogue. You can't take it that serious.
Yeah, I
What do you
agree.
got?
I mean, I kind of guess it's like dialogue and acting. Like, I think if it was a bit better, like they could have gotten away with it of the suspicion of who actually might be in on it. Because, like, kind of from the jump, like I said, you kind of could assume, hey, this person actually might be involved with what's going on. So I think if that was maybe a bit better, both overall, then like I feel like it could have been more of like a plot twist thing at the end.
And like comparing it to the other movie, you could just tell that one is written a lot better than the other. Now, getting
Just-
into sound effects, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I thought it built up a good amount of tension. Again, comparing it to the other film, I think the sound effects isn't as well done or as original. I think a lot of what they take is from different other types of slasher films, but I still think it's pretty well done with like the tension with the camera itself.
Yeah, sound effects were good. Soundtrack was pretty fine. Just building suspense, that kind of stuff. Simple.
Yeah, there's nothing crazy. What do you think, Madison?
I guess it was okay. I didn't really pay attention, to be honest, to the soundtrack.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Getting into set design, I gave it a 5 out of 10 to where, it's just like a house getting attacked kind of thing. Again, not an original idea at all, but itself is pretty cool. They also set it up like right at the beginning where like the mom hears stuff and then the dad's like, "Oh, you're crazy." Oh, they told no one's here. Then he doesn't actually check all the rooms, but then gaslights her into thinking that he did. So
The
And
one
he was
thing,
actually in the house, right?
yeah, the one thing I'll give to slasher movies, but this one in general is felt like I was pretty paying pretty close attention, and I can imagine filming over the course of days and months that it would be easy to lose track of like where certain weapons were dropped, where certain things were placed in one small environment like that. And I didn't catch anything that specifically stood out that was like, how did he get a knife that was in the other room 2 minutes ago? That anything like that. There was no, it was pretty cohesive, especially with the set design being so contained and small.
yeah, for sure. Getting into directing, I gave it a 7 out of 10 to where I think it was really well directed. The additions that he made, for example, like the masks themselves, I think is a very original concept of like what kind of masks they are and what they resemble for each of the 3 different killers. And the opening scene itself, I thought was really cool and really set it up well. And then you ending with like the very same idea of like you're next. I know a lot of people have been asking for like a sequel for this since it came out, but it's one of those cult films that just, it never will because nothing's going to beat what it can set itself up to be.
So, what was the purpose of killing the neighbor at the beginning, besides like building tension in the movie?
Explained it.
I didn't know.
Essentially,
I missed it.
pretty much it was like she was going to be the witness in the end. She wasn't supposed to go crazy and kill everyone. Essentially what it was supposed to be is like these crazy mass killers came and killed the neighbor and their family so that they could accept the inheritance.
So you take the neighbor off to make it not like a one set
Yeah.
thing. Okay.
Probably kind of like a warm up for them too. I don't know. Before we
Yeah.
kill a lot of people, let's just kill this guy real quick who's just trying to get crazy on a whatever afternoon. But then editing, I gave it a 5 out of 10. Very same idea to where I don't think it's anything crazy special for a slasher film, but just done how it should be done. Nothing to like crazy highlight in itself, but nothing to really ding it against. So I think it's just average editing wise.
Yeah, I thought the editing was fine. Pretty basic cuts, nothing spectacular, but it was good.
I think getting into the overall theme, this is where the inheritance factor of like any slasher films, I can't think of any other inheritance factor in a slasher film specifically at the top of my head. I don't know if you can, Madison, but I think
No,
it is a
most of
really original concept.
yeah. A lot of the others have to do with
Beca-
more of like getting revenge. This is not really like
Yeah.
a getting revenge kind of thing.
Now you could just tell that like the family was never really that close. They all don't really like each other. Um, and what do you think of? They didn't even want to do it themselves, really. They just wanted to. They hired other people to do it. Kind of like I would say, if there's any hit on that, it would be like there's just like question factor of like, oh, who are these killers? Why are they killing them? And then it kind of jumps into that, which I didn't expect when the first time I watched it. I thought it was just going to be these crazy people. And then when you rewatch it, you kind of see the whole setup like Madison was talking about. What do
I
you
don't
guys
know.
think?
To me, it just seemed like a cop out theme. Like that's such an easy thing just to be like, of course the family's rich, so he just wants the money. Like give me some depth in the characters. Give me something that happened, like revenge. I'd prefer that over it any day. Just
Mm,
something to grab onto to be like, oh, I care about this. I don't care about their inheritance, so why do I care if they die or live?
I don't know. For slasher films specifically, I just can't really think of many that do that. I could think of other thrillers that they've done that, but they don't end up actually killing everyone else. They end up just trying to set them up or some other way. That's just the way I view it. But I mean, it's happened before in real world. People just
Yeah.
kill everyone for inheritance. They get caught. Giving it an overall rating, I gave it a 6.4 out of 10. So 64 out of 100. This doesn't detail. I was really trying to get after it in like a critic way. That's why it's not as high, because I just wanted to really get down to the details. Overall, I really like this film though. Like if you really like slasher films or horror films itself, I would recommend it. But if you aren't really into that and you're looking for like a really solid plot detail movie,
Yeah, I gave it, we were a lot closer than I thought we'd be. I gave it a 5.8 out of 10. I just felt disconnected and unable to really invest in the characters. Pretty predictable plot, I felt like, and just felt hollow overall to me.
Overall, I gave it a 7.5. I know it's probably high, but I really enjoyed it. Even like rewatching it, like it's still an enjoyable film. It's like in one you can rewatch again and again, I feel like, and it's still good.
now again, it goes into like a more part of like horror that Psycho won't really get into, where it's like very campy, very culty, which a lot of horror movies are kind of just categorized under. So, getting into our next movie, Psycho. Justin, take over the rent.
Yep. Yeah. So I want to preface this kind of with like a story, I guess. I had no idea that I've heard Norman Bates referenced in like all of pop culture before, and I had no idea this was the movie it was from. I've heard it in songs and stuff like that before, and never had any idea. And my coworker told me like, "Oh, you know about like Norman Bates and everything in this," and I was like, "That's where I've been hearing this name from, and it's finally all coming together." But basically, with the plot, obviously, the beginning follows Marion Crane. She left after stealing $40,000 from her employer and ran away to go stay with her boyfriend. But it started raining one night, and she decided to, go over to a motel as she feels like she's being watched by the police and other people. So she stays at the motel and meets Norman Bates. Kind of odd and felt weird around him, but obviously that leads to him killing her. And then we think it's the mother for the majority of the movie. So we're kind of stuck in between trying to figure out who's there, who the mother really is, why is Norman protecting her, but also getting into the characters like her boyfriend, her sister, and the private detective who are kind of investigating it throughout the movie. I thought that this movie was really interesting, and I gave it a 9. I don't know if I already said that. It felt like this movie very much had two climaxes for me. It had the death of Marion Crane, and then it also had the turning point where you realize that Norman Bates is the mother. I thought the death of Marion Crane really left the audience uncertain about where the rest of the movie was going, because I think there was still like an hour and 10 minutes left in the movie, and you're kind of sitting there like, what's supposed to happen next? And I think it did a great overall job at having two climaxes, having two real big turning points in the movie.
Yeah, I agree with the two climaxes that definitely has like it's setting up like a final girl concept, like OG concept of like Janet Leigh or Marion Crane being that final girl, but then that doesn't happen. And then at that point, you think Norman Bates is just cleaning up for the mom that goes a little psycho. Then it gets into like the investigation of where is she? Where is she? And then Arbogast comes into it, and then Sam and Leela. So I thought that was really interesting.
Matt, what'd you think?
Of the plot, I thought it was good. I give it an 8 out of 10 because I think, kind of like you were saying, like I think some of it was like a little unpredictable, which I think is like interesting to me because it is such like an older film. So I thought like, the plot twist in the end and like finding out he was actually like the one doing it all along and he was dressing up like as his mother or whatnot. And I thought it was good.
Yeah, see, if I didn't know anything about like if I didn't have any pop culture reference at all, I would, and this is my first time watching it without any background, I would have totally not known that Norman Bates was the killer. But the fact that I knew Norman Bates and all that, like the whole time I knew it was going to be him. But it's just, I don't want to say it ruined the movie for me. It was just kind of like added an interesting concept to where even the first time watching, I was looking for the details to try to see where you could see that it was him.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know he was the killer. I've heard Norman Bates reference, but I was trying to figure out like during the movie, oh, maybe he's just, defending his mother so much that he ends up turning kind of crazy too because he has to see all this stuff. I was just trying to figure out what's going on. But the twist kind of really caught me by surprise. I did not see that coming until very close to the end of the movie. It was well done. To get into the characters, I gave it an 8. Obviously, you had Norman Bates, you had Marion Crane. Those were very much the two biggest characters. You had the private detective, her boyfriend, and the sister as well, obviously searching for Marion for the latter half of the movie. But I thought everybody did pretty good. They had their own little story arcs that each one of them had their own interests into why Marion Crane was dead and cared for her that way, which I thought was pretty good. And then obviously Norman is a tough cookie to crack, I guess you could say. It was just kind of hard to understand what was going on in his head. He was very stoic in the way that he talked and kind of interacted with everybody.
Yeah. The two highlights of the film is Norman Bates and Marion Crane. I think the second half of the film, the characters, I wouldn't say lack, but just compared to the other two are just not even close to me as having the same kind of background or really care about them. Like at that point, I kind of wanted the rest of them to die. I'm not going to even lie to you. I kind of wanted them to get killed off. I may just be a slasher fan of me, but I was like, yeah, you know what? Kill them, do.
And then getting into cinematography, I gave this a 9. I didn't know much about Alfred Hitchcock going into this, but kind of reading about the film after the fact, this movie was super low budget. I believe it was on a budget of $806K, which actually forced Alfred Hitchcock to film it in black and white. And I think that also forced out a lot of creativity when it came to the cinematography. People talk about how he used really high contrasts to just create like greater shadows behind characters, especially like the mother and Norman Bates. And it gave the audience a big sense of unease and kind of showed Bates's isolation overall.
Yeah, Hitchcock is like one of the most known directors for kind of just like the way he's done films and people like copying his ways, which is crazy to me that he didn't get that much money for this movie, considering he's won Oscars for like the years before, all that stuff. Yeah, he has Vertigo, Rear Window, Notorious. I watched a couple of those before, like way back. It's crazy to me that he just didn't get that much money. That they're like, it's Alfred Hitchcock. Yeah, he doesn't deserve it.
From what I read, this was adapted off a book, and a lot of the, studios weren't really interested in the idea. They didn't think it would really work. So that's why they gave him such a low budget.
Yeah. I really like the cinematography in this movie. I think again, you could see the ties from this movie to almost any other slasher film and the way that they shoot it itself. Like you get like kind of jump scares into it before jump scares were really a thing.
Yeah. Matt, did you have anything?
About the cinematography,
Just in general.
I enjoyed the film. I was kind of like reading up on it because I thought it was interesting. So another movie came out during this time called like Peeping Tom. It's like another slasher film, but Psycho was like originally one of the first like horror slasher films that like moved away from like the monsters and the supernatural. and move towards like humans actually being the killer because like and was like you can actually face evil every day and you don't even know it. It could be the person standing in front of you and you wouldn't know. And then there was like an I was reading too about how like it was interesting that they like killed off a main character like so early on. Like that was like another big thing that was like about the movie because like it was kind of like you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that was definitely an interesting turn.
Mm-hmm. It also got nominated for Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, and Best Director at the Academy Awards. So that's also pretty interesting considering the low budget. Back then, they used to have Best Cinematography, Color, and Black and White. So this got nominated in the Black and White Best Cinematography.
And then getting into dialogue, I gave it a 8. My favorite quote was from Norman Bates. He said, "We all go a little mad sometimes." That was obviously at the beginning when he's talking to Marion. And I thought that was pretty interesting foreshadowing, obviously. Just leading to kind of his isolation and his, I guess you call it split personality dealings.
The whole final dialogue scene after like the big fight, that just goes insane. There's just so much
Yeah.
to pull out from there. It's like, oh, Norman Bates no longer actually exists. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I was like, she would never even hurt a fly. And then he stares into the camera and you're like, okay.
Yeah. Because up until that point in the movie, we hadn't seen him act like his mother besides the one time he's chasing her with a knife
Yeah.
type thing. That was it. We never heard any dialogue as the mother. We never heard from the mother. So that was pretty tense. It was very eerie for sure. You thinking, Matt?
I mean, I thought we kind of heard the mom, like she was like scream at him and stuff, and then like that one scene where he like picks her up essentially, and she's like saying like stuff to him, but I guess not
I
much.
do remember that. But I mean, we never heard anything bad out of the mother. We thought that the mother was the killer,
Hmm.
but we never heard her like being threatening or accusing.
Yeah, that makes sense because she would use just seem like the way he explained in the beginning is like, oh, she's just like ill,
Yeah.
but you don't know what kind of ill essentially.
Yeah. Just sounds like the crazy grandma down the block.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then getting into set design, I gave it a 9. I thought it was so cool that the motel felt so small and contained, but it would constantly like preach up shots looking up at the house. And that made it feel so uneasy about the layout of the house, but also what could be going on in there. What is wrong with the mother? What's Norman's living situation like, he's always taking care of probably the few people a year that come by that motel, but what's his situation kind of like? And throughout the movie, it kind of led us staring up that hill, wondering. I thought that was very
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah. Especially the hill, that concept. And then 12 cabins, 12 vacancies, all that kind of stuff. And then how he set it up in his room right next to room 1. But then looking back at it, how like they explain how he felt attraction for Marion, and then immediately we see him walk away after looking at her through the peeping hole, and then he goes and kills her as a mom. I thought that was a really interesting concept to see like how quickly he could move back and forth in between those spaces.
What'd you think about the set design, Matt?
I mean, I liked it. I liked how they would also go like back and forth between like what was happening at the motel and like what was happening with like the sister and the boyfriend and the private like detective and like things like that. And I thought that was like set up well. I'm I don't know if this is just me, but I kind of did like the car scenes like when they were driving, like because back then they didn't actually drive, so I thought like how they had it set up was actually really nice.
Yeah, it did look good. Especially like that scene where she was driving in the rain. I could not tell what was in front of her at all. I was like, yeah, she needs to like pull over or something.
Well, also it kind of confused me for a bit because I thought she was driving for a brick, but then like she
Yeah.
wasn't even. But then they weren't even that far away. Like I don't know. Were you guys confused by that?
I was.
Yeah, it was because he said like 15 miles, right? He was like, oh, it's
Yeah, I
like
was like,
10, 15 miles down the road.
wasn't she
She's like,
driving for
huh?
2 days? Like, where was that girl going? Like, did she already try to go back? Is that like the idea behind it that she was already trying to go back because she said she was?
Yeah, I don't
Or
know.
I don't
It
know.
had me confused. I was like, whatever, we're somewhere safe.
Yeah, like, did she like feel already caught by like the cops after falling asleep and all that? That she was like you know what, maybe I should just go back home and like approach this head on. I don't know why I did what I did. And then maybe she was that close already.
But then I feel like
I
she
get,
wouldn't have gone to the car dealership and like traded in her car and got a new car with California plates.
yeah,
Because that was like a whole other thing. Like she swapped her car and was like, no, it's fine. Just like give it to me. I want it. Just here's my money. Take it.
different time, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It definitely confused me.
I
For
was confused how the cop came back because he went a different direction and then she pulled into like the little thing and he was just like there. I was like, where did he come from?
for acting, I gave it an 8. I said, Anthony Perkins was great. He felt so calm and relaxed in the beginning that it like definitely couldn't be him. But then also Marion Crane was great at showing off a you know, light, slight sense of unease, but also like really vulnerable because she had very limited options that her character could choose from doing at that point. So she was kind of just open to anything. What do you guys think about the actors?
I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Perkins, a big standout. But Janet Leigh, who plays Marion, it's her only nomination for an Oscar is for this movie. She won a Golden Globe for it, but I thought for sure she would be more stuff looking into it. She is in a lot of movies, but she isn't like a great award nomination person. Either is Anthony Perkins himself. So I think this is like their top tier stuff.
I like the characters. I think they all kind of did add something to like the movie. I would like to describe Norman Bates as something like he's like charming, but like in an uncomfortable way, if that makes sense. Like he can definitely bring on the charm, but he also does make you kind of feel uncomfortable in like certain scenes. And then Marion, like the woman, like the whole like the shower scene, like the what's so big about that movie, like that felt like so like real. Like she was like actually like it was actually happening to her. Like it didn't feel like fake or anything. So I think the acting was really great. And even like the other like people, like her sister and the detective and things like that.
Yeah, kind
And
of
then
on that. Yeah, go ahead.
just a shout out to Martin Balsam, who plays Albergast. He's also in 12 Angry Men. And I was like, I recognize that guy from somewhere. That's where
I recognize them too. Kind of on what Matt was saying about that, kind of infamous shower scene. Now, I was getting into editing. I gave it a 9. That scene in particular, it said it had 78 shots in 45 seconds, which is so insane.
crazy.
Hitchcock kind of wanted to create like a disorienting and shocking effect without explicitly showing, somebody getting stabbed. But I do remember that watching it back, it was just kind of so shocking and like thrilling to see, you thought everything was okay. And now all of a sudden, all of a sudden something's really wrong. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at I bet in the 1960s, if it was like a slasher film like it is now and showing way too much blood and all that, it wouldn't gain as much like attraction because no one wanted to see that probably back then. Now it's like there's a whole following for that kind of stuff. But I did think that was interesting. The cutting and then like also the editing with the music. Like I will say I probably had it a little bit too loud in my earbuds on the plane, but when it went off, I was like, "Oh my god, I need to turn this down for a second." It was killing my ears.
And then for directing, obviously, Alfred Hitchcock's very well known. I give it an 8, especially for this movie. I think, he had so little available resources wise, especially with the budget to put together one of the best films of that era. And I'd argue probably one of the most highly recognized films of that century on a budget of 806K, just not comparing the two at all, but just both in the horror genre. Sinners this year had a 90 million budget. And it's just kind of crazy what he was able to do with something so little.
No,
What do you think about?
yeah, I mean, it's Alfred Hitchcock. I've only seen a couple of his movies, but everyone talks about him being one of the OG original guys that just really set the tone for a lot what directors base their stuff off of nowadays. Like Nolan shouts out Hitchcock, and then so does Martin Scorsese. I even think Bong Joon-ho specifically calls him out.
Yeah. And then for soundtrack, I gave it a 7. I said it was pretty good for its time, especially it felt really nostalgic to that era. What do you think about it?
Honestly, I thought it was really unique in the way of like tensions, like not the craziest sound, like a little bit there, but then like the very like intense sounds added to it. I thought were really interesting.
So getting into themes, I gave it an 8. I thought there was a lot of pretty good ones here. Obviously, had like the duality of human nature with obviously with Norman Bates, and him, his kind of split personality thing he had going on. And then obviously the influence of family, overall moral compromise, and just the darker aspects of human psyche, especially for its time. Like Madison mentioned earlier, horror was kind of a monster thing, but this is the first time it really went after making humans the monster.
Yeah. And getting into like what started off slasher films, really, it's the idea of like stalking people in a certain manner, which like this definitely does fit that category of like he's stalking her, slash like without her knowing, and then just killing a group of people. That's what usually makes what a slasher film is. Would you agree, Madison?
And two, like with the killings, like they're not like in that way, but they're a lot more intimate because typically they use knives, they use blades, they use axes, like so they're a lot more closer, so they're a lot more intimate, and you could feel that with the very first one right off the bat in the shower.
Yeah, more intimate. Now it's gotten into even more gory kind of slasher films where it just really gets into it. Shout out to the Saw franchise that really just popularized gore. And then sometimes just random. Sometimes I feel like slasher films just like randomly killing them. But we're still talking about Psycho. Just wanted to get into how it really set up like what slasher films are now and how you can see the origins of being Psycho itself.
Yeah. So overall, I gave it an 8.3 out of 10 or an 83. I really love this film. Like I said, I'm not really a slasher guy. I'm not a horror guy by any means. And I really enjoyed just the overall makeup of this movie. It was really great.
Yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it as well. I liked seeing the origins of a lot of movies I like today and seeing how well done and even a film back in the 60s can hold up so well.
My overall score was a 9. I just really enjoyed this film because like kind of just knowing how like it connects to everything else too, like later, like in film and like horror and things like that. But I just think the story was great and the twists were good and like just his character was so compelling. Like you almost like wanted him to like get away with it because of like his weird charm, like I said earlier.
So something interesting that I found was Janet Leigh. She's like known as one of the original Scream Queens, right? You know who her daughter is? Jamie Lee Curtis,
I did know that.
which is really interesting because she's also known as one of the main Scream Queens for Halloween. So I thought that would just be interesting to throw in if you didn't know that. Cool. Okay. So now for the end activity that we're going to do today is a movie draft, specifically a horror movie draft. We're not just going to do slasher films, although that will be one of the categories. So the categories that we're going to do for this draft are going to start off with Oscar nominated. So it needs to just be nominated for anything within the movie itself. Box office over 100 million, which for horror movies is a lot harder to do. It's not really known for being the most grossing type of movies. And then we're going to do horror icon. So it's not going to be the movie itself, but the icon. And then franchise. And so an entire franchise of different types of horror movies. And then a slasher movie itself. That's the fifth category. And then, of course, the wild card. Yeah. So what we will also add to this, so we don't end up drafting like 3 of the same type of things into one category. For example, you draft something in franchise, you can't get it in any other category. Same with horror icon. If you get it in there, you can't draft it anybody else, or no one else can draft it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think
You can't
that
draft
helped.
like you can't draft like Halloween and then do like Halloween 2.
Yeah. Or you can't do Halloween and then do Michael Myers. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But like if you picked it and then I could pick it, nobody else can pick it.
Yep.
Gosh.
I think it makes it a lot more interesting draft, and then also just a little more fun. I think we can highlight more films that are out there than just like some of the more common ones, but also makes it a little bit competitive. Cool. So I'll spin to see who gets to go first. And yep, of course it is. It's Justin. There it
I
is.
always get it.
I'm going second, and then Madison third. Cool.
So I think with my first pick, I'm going to go with one of my favorite horror movies because it has well-developed characters and good plot. I'm going to go with A Quiet Place for box office.
Office.
I really like this movie. This was like the first ever horror movie I went to see in a theater and like thoroughly enjoyed. I was like, wow. Obviously everybody talks about with this movie, the sound design is pretty intense. I think the first 15 minutes of the movie, nobody speaks a word. That takes a lot to do. John Krasinski also talks about how the host, the movie we did a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, has a lot of influence on his movie, A Quiet Place. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I really like The Quiet Place as well. Crazy movie experience to watch in the theaters for the first time. And it's created 2 movies after it's now, part 2 and day 1. And they're apparently coming out with a part 3 within the next couple of years. It's about to be like a full-fledged franchise. Cool. So with the number 2 pick, I think I'm going to go with franchise because it's my favorite horror franchise. And I'm going to go with Scream, which I
was
know
kind of
Madison
mean.
really likes.
That was mean.
It is my favorite horror franchise. I literally have a shirt with it on right here. Just saying how much I like it. I have my little buddy, Ghostface. All of them really are really well done. Other than Scream 3, I want to shout out Scream 3 for being so bad and being by far the worst one. Just wanted to point that out there. First 2 hold up so well. The first one holds up so well. It makes fun of the horror franchise while also being such an integral part of it, which I think is so cool. The first one, Drew Barrymore, apparently in all the trailers, everybody was hyping it up. Drew Barrymore. Oh my God, she's going to be in the new horror movie. She's going to be the final girl. Drew Barrymore. Oh my God, because everyone knew her from E.T. And what do? They kill her off right in the first 15 minutes of the movie. One of the most iconic opening scenes of any movie. Scream 4 is my personal favorite. Yeah, I could talk about the Scream franchise itself. The newer ones, I think they're really good. They're pretty well done. A lot of people hate on them and what they're doing with it, but I think they're pretty well done, honestly. And I didn't know who they would be until the final scenes of it. You can make predictions and all that, but I had no idea. Yeah.
The new ones as well. I just didn't like the one thing they did with like her dad like being one of the people, like the original killer. Like
Yeah.
that was a little weird to
The
me.
connection with Sam, or with the 5th one's like killer and all that. I was like, that's kind of a cop out reason. But I did like the idea of like bringing Ghostface into New York. I thought that was really unique in itself. Some people were like, oh, that's just not right. They're going away from, and I was like, no, that's cool. You have Ghostface just running around New York, fucking killing people. It is crazy how they made him like super like strong in it, but then it's just like a 50-year-old man. But cool. All right, Madison, you got third pick.
Okay, my pick will be from the horror icon category, and I picked Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. I actually only watched this movie for the first time like a year ago, and I really enjoyed it. Like just like the craziness, and then like I was honestly like confused so many times, but like I went back and watched it again, and then it like made sense. And I mean, he's such like an iconic character. I mean, people dress up like him every year, and you just see like I don't know. I just really enjoyed that film.
Yeah. I want to talk about a cult film. Like that is, it's definitely, I got a cult following to it. Totally, entirely. And then also, did he kill all those people actually? Was it all in his head? Is he just a psychopath? Did he just get away with it? There's so much more questions than there are answers to like the entire end. Those kind of horror movies I really like personally, where they really end with like what actually happened. Yeah, cool. All right, Madison, you got another pick.
Right off the bat.
Yep.
Okay.
Snake style.
Then I'm gonna go with box office, and I'm going to pick It 2017. I was like a freshman in high school when this came out, and I remember like having to go with my mom to go watch it in theaters because you had to be like you couldn't go alone if you were a minor. And I've always just loved like It and like Pennywise, and like I love all the It movies. I remember trying to read the book like at that age, but like I just couldn't. Like I just didn't have the willpower to do it. But I really enjoy the movies and like everything they do.
Yeah, I think I also really like. I think it's really well. I think the 2017 one's really well done. It's the highest grossing horror film of all time, in fact. But also, they made chapter part 2. There was a show all the way back in the 80s. They're making a new show on HBO about it. I think it has a really good following, and I think the book itself is really worth reading for anyone. I read it while on a Cancun trip, and I read it all within 1 week. And if you guys know anything about the book, it's like about close to 1,000 pages.
Wow.
So I just got really engrossed into it. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. The 2 things I'm scared of in this world, deathly, are snakes and clowns. So it always scares me because I just hate clowns. Okay, so it's my pick. I'm gonna go with Oscar, and I'm gonna go with Get Out.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I really like Get Out. I'm pretty sure it won Best Original Screenplay. I think it's such a cultural, like, iconic film now that's been out for so long and it holds up so well. Another 2017 film came out the same year as it, but I just think it's just so well done. What a crazy, like, debut for Jordan Peele to have.
Yeah.
Like, insane. And then backing up with Us and Nope.
Still haven't seen it, but I do need to watch both of those. I've seen Nope, but I haven't seen, his 2 more horror-esque ones. I'm definitely excited to. Just got to find the time.
Yeah. It's really special. Apparently a changed ending, which I won't get into because now that I know that you haven't seen it. But originally it had a different ending, and then test audiences didn't like it. So then he changed it last minute. But yeah, cool.
For mine, I'm going to take Michael Myers for horror icon. I feel like he's just probably one of the most recognized horror icons, right next to Ghostface. And I'm honestly shocked he's still on the board here.
Cool, dude. Michael Myers, since we won't be able to choose Halloween movies anymore, Halloween franchise itself really just set up to what all like franchises did now with slasher films. It's really sad that, like, because the original new sequel to like Halloween that came out, I think, in 2018, really well done. I really liked it. Then the 2 that followed on to be the 2 worst Halloween movies of all time, and I was like, man, that really sucks. Those were 2 good examples of how to not do a slasher film. Also, there was no need to be a recap to it, like a sequel to that one and a trilogy. But Michael Myers himself, the boogeyman, call him what you want, iconic.
Yeah. And then for slasher, I'm going to do a movie we had this week. I'm going to pick Psycho. I'm not going to get into it too much, but I was really high on this movie, and I still would definitely want to go back and rewatch it. I really enjoyed this one this week.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I would have been surprised if you didn't pick it here, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Okay, where am I going to go with this? So with icon, I am going to go with the one and only Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street franchises. He's one ugly dude, but very iconic in himself. Have you guys seen the Nightmare on Elm Street films?
No, but I understand the premise.
The Dream World?
Yeah.
I think I've seen like the first one, but like a long time ago. Like I grew up watching slasher films with my dad. So some of them I haven't like went back and rewatched, but I think I did end up watching that one.
Yeah, he's quite an ugly little dude. But it's pretty much the Dream World. You could go to sleep, but he kills you in your sleep kind of idea about it. It's definitely a different concept also than most slasher films. But I would say he's like one of the big 4 like main franchise horror icons.
I just think about Rick and Morty. There's a character named Scary Terry, and he's just got a ball chin. He's just like a predator. So weird.
They also in the Scream or in the Scary Movie, like how they make fun of like scary movies. Yeah, they also make fun of him in that, and I think that's also really funny what they do with it. I recommend looking into that as well. And also Black Phone, the new movie Black Phone 2, also high key just really shouts out to like The Shining and Nightmare on Elm Street. Which I thought was really cool. How they really just shout out to both of them within like the concept itself. Ooh. All right, Madison.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with franchise, and I'm gonna do the Conjuring universe. So like the Conjuring, Annabelle, The Nun. I've probably watched these movies too many times to count. I know everything like what's gonna happen about them. I did just watch, I guess it's what, the Conjuring 4 last weekend on Prime at home. I thought that was really good. And honestly, it did terrify me. Like I've watched scary movies all the time, but like this one, like my hair was like standing up.
Was it the Devil Made Me Do It one?
No, the one that like came out like last month or so.
It came out on Prime already?
Yeah.
Last Rites.
Yeah. I watched that last weekend.
That's like the one I haven't watched from that whole universe. Because my fifth year, I watched all of them like in chronological order of when it happened in their universe,
Hmm.
which was pretty cool. My favorite is still the original though, like the one that
Yeah.
started it all, the Conjuring.
I will say the
A lot of people
nuns.
like yeah, a lot of people say the nuns are pretty good. I'm not a big fan.
I think the first night I think is like one of the creepiest ones out of all of them, to be honest. I know she kind of just
Those
like
ones,
stands there.
yeah, those ones, in my opinion, just use a little too many jump scares to like add and like don't really have much plot to them other than just like the straight up just jump scares carry it. Which for me is like, if you're just gonna try to scare me with jump scares the whole movie, you kind of lost me. Because I'm kind of a scaredy cat when it comes to jump scares. I'm kind of like this like the whole time, like holding my eyes down. And
Yeah, Justin
all
will
right,
tell
you
you
got another pick?
I'm not good with jump scares.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go for Oscar nomination, and I'm gonna do The Exorcist, the original. Also, I don't know if you guys know this, but like a ton of crazy stuff happened on the set of The Exorcist. Like it caught on fire. People were like experiencing like chill, like all these issues. 9 people actually associated with the film had like passed away within the making of the film. There was like a ton of stuff like and that was the thing when the fire happened, only the only place that stayed was like the room where like The Exorcist was like being filmed. Everything else around it burned down though.
I
So
didn't know that, but I knew about a lot of like the crazy stuff that happened on set. And where I live right now, Las Vegas, they actually have like a Universal Studios like haunted mansion house thing, and part of it
Mm.
was the Exorcist like concept. And I thought it was a robot. I thought it was a robot, but it was actually like a real actress, and it scared the crap out of me. Like it was like climbing the wall with like zip line things to it, and I was like, "Oh, that's a robot." But then like I could see like the eyes were real, and I was like, "How much are they paying you for this? Like are you actually insane?" But yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, getting into my pick, gonna go with box office. I got a lot of options that I want to get into, but I think I'm just gonna go with my gut. Really out there too. Final Destination Bloodlines. And it came out this year. I really like the Final Destination franchise itself. I think it's one of the more slept on ones. How like you can never cheat death. And everyone before this coming out year, even the big fans of it were like, why are they coming out with another film? The last couple ones have been not as good. But then it was, in my opinion, the newest one is the best one out of the entire franchise. I really like the new one. I think I added some cool concepts, some really cool or interesting kills into it that are like just like make your like bones shiver when you think about the way they died. For example, one of them is a CAT scan. If you know anything about CAT scans, they attract magnets. So it's a
Yep.
big ass magnet. Yeah. So Justin, you got back to back.
Yeah. Kind of trying to figure out how to balance everything here. I didn't think I'd have this much movies that I wanted on my list still left. So I think what I'm going to do, just did a little research here. I'm going to take Jaws under franchise. And we set a premise before doing this that there had to be 4 movies. And I see
Yep.
4 movies.
Yep.
Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, and Jaws The Revenge. So I'll take Jaws as my franchise. Obviously, different kind of horror than a lot of the ones we've talked about, but definitely established a kind of fear of the unknown horror. I think you would kind of call that genre. Just the fear of something that you can't see, you can't understand, but you know it's out there and you know it's coming. Yeah, it definitely did it for me as a kid. I was scared of sharks for a while. I think that this movie kind of created the fear of the ocean in a lot of people.
Yeah. So I've already chosen this in like 2 other drafts, and I was like, I can't just choose this again. I got to be like a little unique. I can't have this in 3 other drafts. Need someone else give it some love and or not. Something about this, I don't think it holds up as a good franchise, only because I think the first one is an all timer, while the other
Yeah.
3, and I've seen the other 3, are some stinkers. I'll tell you that. There's a
Yeah.
reason why they don't come out with any more.
So crazy take. I've never seen Jaws or any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're missing out. That's
You
Steven
can get on
Spielberg.
that.
Yeah.
Just the first one.
I mean, it's Halloween week, so you may as well just fit it in this week at some point, because it
Yeah.
definitely is a horror movie. Yeah.
And then for my Oscar, I'm going to go back to my old reliable, and I'm going to go to Bram Stoker's Dracula. Probably could have waited till the last round. It seems like everybody hates this movie except for me. I really like this movie. It was a great interpretation of Dracula and kind of got me into film and just studying film overall. So I got to attribute that to something.
Yep. I still haven't seen it, so
I'm just going to keep
Still
taking it
waiting.
every draft till you watch it.
All right, Madison. Wait, no, it's me. Slasher. All right. So for slasher, I'm gonna go with. I hope this counts. I'm pretty sure it does. The Strangers.
Yeah, it's a slasher.
Yeah. Strangers is awesome. Super scary. The craziest part about it is they asked them why are they doing this, and it's because they said you're home. That's the reason why. It doesn't have to be a crazy concept of why a psycho wants to kill you. It's because you answered the doorbell, which is actually a really scary concept. It's built so well. It just sucks that everything else after it kind of sucks. That's why I wanted to pick it by itself, because Strangers itself. Rewatched it on the plane, and it had me scared anything, and I couldn't sleep for the rest of the plane ride because of it. Madison, you got your last 2 picks.
My last 2 picks. Okay. Actually, you made that really easy for me because I was going back and forth between movies. So for slasher, I'm going to do Sleepaway Camp, which I believe came out in 1974. It's actually recommended to me, and I watched it like a week ago or like 2 weeks ago. And honestly, it was so great. I loved the whole thing. And like, I'm not even going to say anything because you need to watch it. Like the plot twist at the end, crazy. And then just like, it was just iconic. Like, I don't know how to explain it,
Mm-hmm.
but I really enjoyed it. And I think it's a great like slasher film. And for Wild Card, this movie only recently came out. Like, I think in 24, like really recent. I'm going to go with the movie Thanksgiving.
Mm.
It like revolves around obviously like Thanksgiving, and then it follows like a
Is that
group
the
of
one-
teens and
Well,
things like
I
that.
think even though it's named Thanksgiving, I think revolves more around Black Friday.
Well, yeah, like Thanksgiving and Black
Yeah.
Friday kind of. It's like those like two together.
Yeah.
Like,
And goes after like consumerism.
yeah. One's revenge because of Black Friday, but like everything kind of revolves around Thanksgiving because
Yeah.
like he dresses up like the town mascot, like the pilgrim, and there's the
Yeah.
whole like
And there's also like no Thanksgiving films. Like I can't really think of more than like 5 Thanksgiving films. So
and the whole feast scene. Like that was disturbing, but I understand it.
yep. All right. So my last pick for wild card, which we'll get into honorable mentions later. There's just like there's a lot that I want to take. But I feel like if there's not an A24 film on this, it's just not doing it right. So I'm gonna go with Hereditary on here for my wild card. A24 is an example of like modern horror. Some people will think is either done really right or really wrong, where they have these concepts that are a lot deeper than what original slasher or horror films are really about. For example, like Strangers, like I just said, they killed them because they were home. Hereditary, it really like dives deep into like family loss, tragedy, trauma, and what it does to yourself and how you can turn against each other if you don't treat it the right way. It's a super dark, deep film, but I really enjoy it. Yeah.
Yep. And with my wild card, I'm a sci-fi guy. And so take a horror sci-fi here. I'm going to go Alien. I think it's, regarded as one of the best like sci-fi franchises overall, but also just that first one had such a horror aspect to it. Was really creepy. The xenomorph is something like we've never seen before, especially for that time. And I think that's a pretty awesome horror movie.
Mm-hmm. Agree. I really like the Alien franchise. It's like gonna be. I was thinking about drafting that at some point, but I also got in the last monster movie draft, so I was like, I got to diversify out here. Got to be a little different, but cool. Okay, so we'll go over the teams real quick. So my team for Oscar, I got Get Out, Box Office, Final Destination, Bloodlines, Horror Icon, Freddy Krueger, Franchise, Scream, Slasher, The Strangers, and Wild Card, Hereditary.
Okay. And for my team, for Oscar, I took Bram Stoker's Dracula. For box office, I took A Quiet Place. For horror icon, I took Michael Myers. For franchise, I took Jaws. And for slasher, I took Psycho. And wild card, I took Alien.
For box office, I took It. For Oscar nominations, I took The Exorcist. For franchise, I did The Conjuring universe. Horror icon, I did Patrick Bateman. For slasher, I did Sleepaway Camp, and my wild card was Thanksgiving.
We'll put this poll up on our Instagram and our different platforms and see who won. Thank you for listening for this episode. Watch some scary movies this week, guys. It's right before Halloween, before we get into Christmas season and or Thanksgiving, even though there's not many Thanksgiving movies. But thank you for listening.
Bye.